Hello, good afternoon, and a special welcome to today's edition of Time with PIAC, hosted by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, here on Facebook. I am Jessica A. Champon. Today, we are looking at the Petroleum Revenue Accountability Agenda for 2026. At PIAC, we are committed to promoting transparency and accountability in the management and use of Ghana's petroleum revenues. And today's discussion is part of that ongoing effort to engage citizens and stakeholders. Ghana's petroleum resources remain a critical source of national revenue. However, how these revenues are managed, allocated, and utilized continues to be a key issue of public interest. As we look ahead to 2026, it is important that we reflect on how well we are doing with accountability, the gaps that still exist, and what must be prioritized going forward. Today's discussion will explore these issues and outline practical steps to strengthen accountability in the sector. Before I introduce my guests, please note this is an interactive session, so kindly send your questions and contributions in the chat and we'll respond to them. Once again, you're welcome to Time with PIAC here on Facebook. So joining me today is the chair of PIAC, Mr. Richard Delima, to explore this particular subject. So hello, sir. Good afternoon, and you're welcome to Time with PIAC.
Good afternoon.
I think we've not had the opportunity to host you after you became chair sometime last year.
Yes.
So let me congratulate you on your election as the chair of PIAC before we get into today's
Thank you very much.
Conversation. So today we are looking at the Petroleum Revenue Accountability Agenda for 2026. And to help us set the context for our viewers, we'll start off our conversation with what we mean by petroleum revenue accountability and why is it even important in the first place.
Thank you very much. I think accountability lies at the heart of what PIAC does. And so it is important to understand the entire spectrum of what we mean by accountability. So petroleum revenue accountability simply refers to the systems, the processes, and the management of oil and gas revenues to support the holistic development of the country. And I use the word holistic because we are looking at the public good, supporting the development of the communities, the people in the country. This distinction is very important because of what we have seen in other countries, where we have an elite group of people who have captured the heights of the extractive sector and are using revenues from the sector to advance their own parochial interests. But in our case, we suppose that the systems we have in place ensures that the country or the government in power can use revenues to support the public good, which means every Ghanaian then benefits from our resources.
But why should the ordinary Ghanaian be interested in how our oil revenues or oil resources are being managed?
Yes, it's important to know how our revenues are managed because, in the first place, the oil belongs to everybody. Mm-hmm. It's a natural resource, and if you check the laws of the country, the constitution particularly, it says that all natural resources belong to the people. So petroleum resources belong to the people of Ghana. We own it. So we should be interested in how the revenues that come from the extraction of these revenues are utilized. Secondly, the accountability systems also ensures that we reduce corruption in the system. One of the sectors that is very prone to corruption is the extractive sector. So if you have strengthened accountability systems, it reduces the possibility of corruption and ensures that there is the expansion of the public good, that every Ghanaian benefits from the resource. Like I said, in other countries, we have just a few select people who have captured the heights of these resources, and the majority of the people are poor. I can recall a country, I don't want to mention the name. The population is less than 1 million, far less than 1 million. And their daily output of petroleum is far in excess of what Ghana gets. But this country happens to be one of the poorest in the world. Why should that be? Because the president, the prime minister, and his children, they control the resources. So this is something that we don't want to see. And that is why we, in PIAC particularly, we promote accountability.
Before we come to PIAC's agenda, I just want us to spend some time talking about how the revenue outlook is looking like for 2026. I mean, the issue about declining production and how it's affecting revenue is something that PIAC has been talking about severally in its report. So how is 2026 looking like?
2026 is a mixed bag. We started off the year with some optimism that we are going to have some stable, climate for investment in the sector. Then one morning on February 28th, we woke up to hear Donald Trump has attacked Iran. And that changed the geopolitical situation in the world instantly. And all of a sudden, the projected petroleum price of around $70, shot up to $100 plus. So a mixed bag because on the positive side, we expect to have some modest gains in terms of petroleum revenue in the at least in the first half of 2026. When PIAC does its semi-annual report in September 15th, I'm sure we are going to get the full scale of the benefit that we are getting. But the other side too is that because we are net importer of fuel, we are going to spend a lot more on oil, and that is not good enough. Secondly, the situation happening tends to reinforce this whole thing about price volatility in extractive sector. One morning we have a government that budgets, petroleum price, budgets around a petroleum price of $70. And then the next moment, some president somewhere, acts in some way. And then suddenly we are having to spend almost double the budgeted amount and so on. So it makes it very difficult for the government to even plan anything. So that is a challenge that we are having. So overall, in 2026, we might get some, revenue cushioning. We might get some revenue cushioning. But then because our production levels keep dropping, and they keep dropping. I mean, come to think of it, in 2019, we had a high of 71 million barrels. And then 2025, it dropped to 37 million. I mean, look at the gap. Yeah. So much as oil prices are increasing on the international market, we might not be able to get the full benefit of these increases because of our dwindling production levels. So going forward, we expect that government will put in place measures to cushion our economy by also inviting investors into the sector so that we can increase our production levels and take advantage of what is happening now.
So now let's talk about PIAC and your accountability agenda for 2026. But first off, we want to give our viewers a bit of background.
Yeah. So
who is PIAC or what is PIAC?
Yeah, I think we never tire of talking about PIAC and what we mean. Even as at yesterday, I was in a friend's house and he introduced me as the chair of PAC.
Oh.
I had to correct him that I'm not the chair of PAC. I mean, I don't want Parliament to cite me for contempt. PAC, Public Accounts Committee, is a committee of Parliament. I mean, that is separate from the Public Interest and Accountability Committee. The simple background is that we have been extracting gold for many, many years. And then people complain that we have not seen any benefits. Then 2007, God blesses us with oil. And the usual Ghanaian cynicism comes in. Oh, we are going to mess up the oil again. So CSOs come together and say that, look, what are the safeguards that we can put in place to ensure that the petroleum resources benefit the country? And one of the suggestions that came up was the establishment of a citizen-led body. Citizen-led because we didn't want government meddling in the oversight of petroleum revenues. Government is spending the revenue. We do not expect the same government to check itself. So we set up this committee, Public Interest and Accountability Committee. And the name speaks for itself, public interest. Yeah. So we serve the public interest. So if you look at the membership, we are a membership of 13. Each one of our members represents a constituency, and none of them represents any government interest. We have the TUC, we have the GJA, we have the Ghana Bar Association, we have the civil society groups, etc., etc. All of us representing different constituencies. Our work is not political. We only look at the public interest, as our name suggests. So in simple terms, that is what the Public Interest and Accountability Committee is about.
And what role does PIAC play when it comes to the petroleum revenue management space? What exactly do you guys do?
Essentially, we do three things. One, we are supposed to monitor compliance with the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, Act 815, passed in 2011. Compliance because, again, it's because of our history. The PRMA happens to be one of the most progressive laws within our extractive sector space. The law is very clear on how revenues from petroleum are supposed to be utilized. So PIAC's job simply is to make sure that all agencies, all relevant agencies, adhere to the principles enshrined in the PRMA. So that is the first one, the monitoring of the compliance to the law. The second one has to do with public engagement. We don't sit on our butts in the office and then write reports. We go out there, we engage the communities, we engage our constituencies, we go to the districts, we go to the regions, we engage different kinds of stakeholders and explain to them how their petroleum revenues have been utilized. I say their petroleum revenues have been utilized advisedly because at the end of the day, the resources belong to the people. So we go and meet the people, tell them that this is how your government is using your revenues. And then we also take feedback from them. And then finally, we also serve as an independent oversight over petroleum revenue management. And in this instance, we interact with the executive arm of government, we interact with parliament, and then tell them, give them a valid independent opinion or assessment on how petroleum revenues have been used. And in this regard, one of the key activities we do is to go out there and do project inspections. So the ministry submits its report and says that, oh, we spent $50,000 to 50,000 cedis to construct a dam in this village. So PIAC goes down to the communities, goes to check whether the dam exists, number one. Number two, goes to check whether the money that has been spent on that thing they call a dam is worth it. Because recently we went to inspect a particular dam, and in the report they say it's a dam. But when you get to the place, it's nothing more than a dugout. I mean, just like a bigger manhole behind somebody's house. But we spent over 50,000 cedis on it. So these are some of the things that PIAC reveals in our daily project inspections that we do.
So I'll let you take a breather. I'll come to you shortly. So if you're just joining us, this is Still Time with PIAC. And today we are looking at the Petroleum Revenue Accountability Agenda for PIAC. And my guest is the chair of PIAC, Mr. Richard Elima. Like I said, it's an interactive session. So if you have any questions or you have any comments, just drop them in the chat and we'll respond to them as the conversation continues. So getting back to our conversation, I'd want us to settle on what specific accountability issues is PIAC going to prioritize this year?
I think we'll keep doing what we have been doing all along. We'll keep doing it. But most importantly, first of all, we are going to ensure there is compliance with the PRMA. Very important. If you check our previous reports, the semi-annual and then the annual reports, it's very obvious that there are cases of non-compliance with the Act. So this year, one thing we are going to do is to insist on the compliance with the Act. So what do? We have met the executive through the Chief of Staff. We have raised some issues. We have met Parliament and so on. We have raised these issues. And the reason we meet these bodies is because we do not have the power to enforce our own recommendations. So we meet these bodies to let them be aware of the infractions of the law so that they can take the relevant action to correct them. The second thing we are going to also do is to empower citizens to demand accountability. There's nothing better than the people themselves requesting or demanding accountability from their duty bearers. It is not just a job for PIAC. PIAC, we are just a membership of 13. We can't be everywhere in the country at the same time. But once you empower communities, they can begin to ask questions. So I look forward to a situation where members of parliament will go to their constituencies, they organize public fora, and then at this public fora, people will raise their hands and ask, Honorable, we read that so and so amount of money was given to this constituency. Can you tell us what it was used for? This is a clear case of demanding accountability, and that will lessen the work of PIAC. So that is also one thing that we want to do. The third thing we want to also do this year is to look at value for money. Value for money. As I said earlier on, one of the things that has become very obvious is in our district engagements and project inspections is that you see amounts of money that have been spent on projects. You go down and then you look at the project, you look at the amount, and you ask yourself, which human being sat down to do this? You look at the project value, and it comes nowhere near the amount of money we have spent. We've seen road projects, very short, 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer, Sapeti road projects, and the amount of money they claim to have spent could have done a fully asphalt road for more than the length of kilometers that we are being told. So we will focus more on value for money. We are not just interested in the utilization of the money. No, yes, it counts. Utilization counts. But more importantly, are we getting value for money? That is also one of the things that we'll be doing here.
Okay, so in terms of revenue reporting, are we going to see something different from PIAC this year? Or is it going to be the old ways of reporting on how the revenues have been used and where you make just recommendations? Are we likely to see something different this year?
Yes, possibly. Two things have happened. One, the government has amended the PRMA. So the ABFA is almost solely going into what they call the big push. The big push that has generated a lot of storm, this week. So our project inspections will change. Our the things we look out for in a project will also change, because formerly the money was spread over many projects, so you could move from here to there and then inspect. But now the money is spent on one big project, a road project. So how are you going to do the inspection? Are you going to check kilometer by kilometer? Are you going to check which contractor got what, etc., etc.? So we have to change our format, the framework we use for inspecting projects. We are going to change it. And then secondly, I think there's also an internal thing. This time we are, when our report comes out, you see the box issues that we have mentioned. We are going to highlight very important issues that are usually glossed over, but which are very important. We are going to highlight them in our report. So it's not going to be business as usual.
So the chair of PIAC says that it is not going to be business as usual, and I trust my online participants to hold us accountable to these promises that the chair of PIAC is making in this edition of Time with PIAC. But let's talk about the role of duty bearers when it comes to petroleum revenue accountability. First off, let's move from the negative, then we come to the positive. So when we have weak accountability in petroleum revenue management, what are some of the consequences?
The most obvious one is corruption. Once your accountability mechanisms are very weak, you enable corruption to thrive, because where people feel nobody's watching and nobody is asking questions, they lose their guards and they do as they like, which might not be consistent with what the law requires them to do. So weak accountability systems breed corruption. Number two, weak accountability mechanisms also deny people of development. So what should have come to you addressing some social need? These days we have been talking about no bed syndrome. We've been talking about children studying on the floors, bare floor, and so on. These are social issues that require attention. If we have weak accountability systems, money that could have been saved to address these social issues end up in people's pockets. So we deny people of development whenever our accountability systems are weak. And then finally, when your accountability systems are weak, they weaken the petroleum management system itself. The efficient petroleum revenue management functions on solid systems. But when the accountability mechanisms are very weak, then those systems are weakened. And it becomes a very bad situation for the entire country. We will not be getting the amount of money that we expect to be getting and so on because, well, some people are misusing the money or monies are finding themselves into private bank accounts and so on. Yeah.
So now let's flip the script. What can we do to strengthen accountability this year?
First of all, let's demand compliance with the law. Compliance with the law. For me, that is a fundamental thing that we need to do. I don't know why people will flagrantly decide to abuse the law, and not do the right thing. But that is why bodies like PIAC exist. We are more or less like the watchman, or I was going to say policeman, but I know people are not a fan of police people, so let me say that we are the watchmen. Watchman is, I think, a milder word. So we are the watchmen of petroleum revenues in the country. So we are required to watch and make sure people comply with the law. So that is the first thing that we ought to do. And again, I come back to CSOs who also play a very fundamental role because they are more like the interface between the public and then the government. So where CSOs also speak out and they also point out infractions of the law, that becomes an opportunity for government to do something about it. And then, apart from using the intermediaries, the people themselves, if citizens become more active, instead of becoming docile and passive, I'm sure they will also do a much better job of policing this whole petroleum revenue management and ensuring that the state gets maximum benefit from it.
You actually took the wind out of my sail. I was going to ask about citizen participation,
Yeah.
but we'll still get to talk about what role citizens can play in all of this accountability conversations.
Yeah, they first of all have to understand that the revenues belong to them. I can't repeat that enough. That let every Ghanaian understand that whatever we get from petroleum, the $770 million we got from petroleum resources last year, is for them. And what the government uses that money for has an impact on them. So it is important for them to follow the money. Follow the money. Some time ago, there was a campaign, global campaign called Follow the Money. So I will repeat that slogan. Let us follow the money. Once citizens begin to follow the money, government will set up and government will know that, people are watching and I need to do the right thing. So citizens have a responsibility to follow the money. Number two, citizens have a duty to be vigilant in their communities, observe projects done with petroleum revenue, and insist on value for money. I recall that we were in the voter region for project inspection, and I remember we engaged with some citizens around where the project was located, and they were the ones giving us information. So the contractor came here, within 2 days he left, he didn't come back, and it was a very shoddy project, So if all citizens are following projects in their communities and they send information to PIAC, very important. If we can work together, they can email us, they can send messages on WhatsApp, Facebook, or go to our website and get in touch with us. I'm sure that will also enhance our work, and they will also be doing their citizen vigilante job very, very well.
But citizens should follow the money.
Yeah.
How do they follow the money?
They follow the money by first understanding where the money is and how much has been come. And thankfully, PIAC has a lot of information, a lot. I mean, I keep saying that we have an overdose of information. Anybody who goes to our website will be amazed at the quality of information we have there. Anybody who attends our public fora will be amazed at the information that we share. Anybody who follows us on social media can understand what is going on. So that should be the first point of call. Visit our website, attend our events, apprise yourself of the many information sources that we provide. And then based on it, you can then be vigilant and then follow the money.
So visit our website, follow us on all our social media pages. We have a lot of information for you on petroleum revenue management. So I'll just read some few questions that I've have come in before I go back to my guest. So, Jerry Dechemensa Powers, like he is saying that should I mention the name? I'm sure it's in reference to the country that you said you were not going to mention the name. So Jerry, please, my chair says you can't mention the name here. And then Philip says, good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon, Philip. Jacob Awini says, good afternoon. So good afternoon. We see all of you watching us online, but beyond this engagement, you can still get to interact with us. So I'm coming back to my chair, the last lap of our conversation. So what are the key messages that PIAC wants citizens to take note of in this year?
This year, I want every Ghanaian, you can probably hang it on your wall somewhere. You can design it and hang it on your wall somewhere. Say that oil money is my money. Oil money is my money. I mean, that's simple, short slogan. You can let somebody design a very beautiful, something for you, hang it on your wall. Oil money is my money. And then go ahead and then act on it. So I believe that once you believe oil money is your money, it also gives you the impetus to follow the money as well. And then the second thing we want to drum home as a message is value for money. This afternoon I've repeatedly mentioned value for money. It's also because in past years we have emphasized on utilization. Oh, the money that went to this sector is not enough. The money that was used for this project is not enough, etc. But we haven't emphasized on the value we are getting for the monies that we are spending. So this year, one of the things PIAC will emphasize, very soon we'll go on our regional engagements. In our media engagements, is one of the key messages that will be drumming home, value for money. Thankfully, the government, I don't know if they've passed it, there's a value for money bill in Parliament. And that will also give us a legal basis for demand value for money. Then we are also going to emphasize on the wastage in the system. Wastage in terms of using petroleum revenue to undertake projects and then you don't complete them. Then we leave them in the bush. We've seen chips compounds that have been left in the bush for 4 or 5 years. We've seen housing projects. We've seen bungalows for doctors and medical professionals that have been abandoned. And most prominently, we have seen the Agenda 111 hospital projects that have also been abandoned. I mean, if Ghanaians don't know, over 66% of the funding for Agenda 111 came from petroleum revenue. Petroleum revenue. So if you abandon these hospitals, it's simply telling Ghanaians that you've wasted the 66% of the funding. You've wasted it. You've thrown it away. So we need to reduce the waste. So I'll use this opportunity to call on government to complete these hospitals, irrespective of what the government thinks. A hospital project will ultimately benefit the people, and we need to find the money. I mean, I know almost all petroleum revenues are now going into the big push, but government can find some alternative funding to finish up these Agenda 111 hospitals to benefit the country.
So this is all time will allow us for today's edition of Time with PIAC. But wrapping up our conversation today on Petroleum Revenue Accountability Agenda for 2026, a few key messages stand out. And I'm going to just reiterate what the chair said. So please, you can hold the chair accountable to the things that he has promised us this year and not me. So chair says that oil money is my money. So as citizens, you need to keep this in mind. Oil money is your money. So you should be interested in how it is being managed. And then chair also says that this year, PIAC is going to champion value for money. And then the committee is also going to ensure that we reduce the wastage in the system where we start off projects with petroleum revenues and then they either get stalled because revenues are not going anymore or they get abandoned. We at PIAC are committed to ensuring that petroleum revenues are managed and utilized for the good and benefit of all citizens. So first, accountability remains at the center of how Ghana manages its petroleum revenues, as transparency alone is not enough. Again, strengthen oversight and accountability requires a collective effort. Government institutions, oversight bodies like PIAC, civil society, media, and you as citizens all have a role to play in demanding and ensuring responsible use of these resources. I'd like to sincerely thank my guest, Mr. Richard Delima, the chair of PIAC, for sharing these valuable insights with us. And to everyone who joined us live, brought in your comments and contributed to the conversation, thank you for being part of this important dialogue. Just so you know that the video will be uploaded on our YouTube page, so you can revisit and then listen to the conversation that we had today. So at PIAC, we remain committed to promoting transparency and accountability in the management and use of petroleum revenues for the benefit of all citizens. Do continue to follow us on all our platforms, engage with our work, and be active participants in holding duty bearers accountable. You can also reach us via WhatsApp on 055 441 6544. I repeat the number again, 055 441 6544. I'm Jessica Echampon. Stay engaged and see you next time.